It's 6:31 actually, Tuesday, September 17th, 2019, and this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. And we're going to say the pledge, if you'd join us. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk Rattari, pledge. Roll call, please.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Trustee Wiegand.
Here.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Gerard, our legal counsel Roger Zappa, and our fire chief Dan Shanahan.
Thank you. Present and accounted for. Any public comment? Don't have a lot of public, but Andrea will be later. That takes off 2 and 3. Tonight's consent agenda consists of approval of regular meeting minutes of September 3rd. Bills payable in the amount of $168,516.04. We have a budget amendment 2019-07. Committee and other reports tonight. Peter White Public Library agenda for August 20th. Regular board meeting minutes of July 16th. Summary of their financial position as of 7/31. Background information on board action items. Their director's report from 2019 and the 2019 book drop statistics by township and the staff roster of the library. Sheriff's activity report from August. Fire Department activity report from August. Iron Ore Heritage Recreation Authority Board meeting agenda for September 18th. And the Peter White Public Library Township Advisory Council minutes of June 5th. Just need approval unless somebody wants to pull something out.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and support. We'll need a roll call if you're going to read the
Yeah.
resolution.
The budget amendment 2019-07 is authorization is requested to reclassify donations and contributions made to the Township Improvement Fund for the underpass project. Donations were received in 2017 and 2018, but were held as deposits until the project started. And that's reflected in this budget amendment. Also requested is an increase in the landfill fees for commercial users and corresponding revenue. Usage has been higher than anticipated and rates increased on July 1.
Oh, Randy?
If I may, just as a codicil to the budget amendment, you'll also note in your budgets that there's been a new line created in township improvements as the offset for that. So when it draws, it'll draw from township improvements.
And also, just a side comment before our superintendent of public works is now present and his replacement, John Kangas, is replacement here also. The motion and the roll call vote is Trustee Marks.
Yes.
Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Trustee Everson.
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. I will need approval of the rest of the agenda, but I'm going to make a couple shifts so that we don't have to have people stay here too long. We don't really need the community linkage 8A. We're going to discuss it down in 10B. So if we take off 8A, we won't have to do that twice. And then, since the fire chief's here, we'll move 10C and D up to his report, and we can talk about that all at one time, so he doesn't have to wait for that. Sometimes when we put these agendas together, we just keep adding and adding and adding, and we forget to readjust, so I'm sorry for that if it's too confusing. And then the QPAD membership dues and the tax rates will be 10C and 10D. We'll just take C and D and move them up to the fire chief's report. So if we can have a motion to make those changes.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Motion and support. Any questions or problems with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Correspondence, of course, we've got charters, rate increases. There are weekly and bi-monthly problems that they keep putting on our people. Conflicts of interest, I haven't heard of anybody having any, so we can pass on that. And then, if I may just introduce, if you don't mind, Andrea, I wasn't sure if our new superintendent would be here. Kirk, would you like to introduce your new superintendent, your replacement, to the board real quick, if you don't mind, Andrea?
And while Kirk's coming up to the podium, John joined us as of Monday of this week, so he's now working with Kirk in the transition.
Good.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited that John is here. We had a number of very good candidates, but he was the outstanding, most qualified, and the most pertinent experience. And as I said, I'm excited that he's here, and I think he's excited to be here as well. And I'm sure he's going to be an outstanding asset to the township. So looking forward to handing over the reins, which I'm trying to do as quickly as possible. There's a lot to cover, obviously, but he's pretty much hit the ground running, so I want to not impede his progress. So anyway, I don't know if you
Come
want
on up, John, say hi to everybody.
Comb your hair.
Have you had a chance to meet
Good
everybody?
evening.
Probably not, hey?
Not everyone, but I recognize most of the faces in front of me, in fact, in the entire room tonight. So I've met Andrea before, as I have Attorney Zappa, all of the executives on the board, Trustee LaRue, I'm sorry. I did that twice now in the last 2 days. I haven't seen you enough lately.
That's my cousin.
But thank you for having me, too. This is an exciting opportunity, and I look forward to it.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I think we're fortunate to have John coming on board with us. As most of you probably know, John has a fairly long history here in the area with the City of Ishpeming as their Public Works Director for, I believe, about 8 years. And most recently has been the manager of Chocolate Charter Township. So he's familiar with township government, particularly the charter township government, which is different than general law and different in many respects from almost all other forms of government in the state of Michigan. So we are the closest to the people, the ones that have the most direct contact with the public, and John's been doing that for quite some time, so we're real pleased to have him.
Thanks. Okay, Miss Andrea, thank you for your patience there. Andrea's the director of the Peter White Public Library, and this is kind of an annual report
It is.
that she likes to share, which is great. We've got all your reports in the consent agenda too, so the public can kind of follow along.
All right. So hi, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to come in and report on the happenings at the library. I will keep this brief, but I can go on. So if at any point you're just like, that's enough, just give me the sign. So just real briefly, the mission of Peter White Public Library is to enrich the community through access to library services and cultural opportunities. The programming and services part is where I can go on, so I'll try and keep this brief. We started a monthly newsletter, email newsletter when we were starting the renovation project so that we could communicate with our patrons what was going on with renovations, what services were going to be impacted, just so we could make sure that people were up to date about what was going on. And it's been really popular, and people have asked us to keep it around. So we are going to keep it around. It's a monthly email. If you are not subscribed to our Insider, I encourage you to do so. It's just kind of a monthly update of what's going on at the library. We've also expanded it a little bit with programming. We've had requests for a while for program updates, a weekly program listing. So we've started that with the Insider as well. Those go out every Saturday, and this is kind of what they look like. It just has a short information about one of our major programs coming up in the next week, and then a week at a glance with all the programs, and then it has a link to our full catalog, so you can see more information about everything going on at the library. We just implemented text notification, which I'm really excited about. This is a screenshot from my phone. You can see that I have made use of it. So that's for overdue items and also for holds. So we are excited about that. A lot of people are signing up for that so they can get those notifications via text instead of just email. So a little bit about our services. Our youth services department is really one of the most important things that we offer at the library. Our programming is highly attended. Our children's program in the last, so these are statistics from fiscal year 17-18. Our 18-19 fiscal year is ending at the end of this month. So this is a little dated information statistics wise. But our children's program averages about 1,143 attendees a month, and our teen programming about 142. In the last fiscal year, we didn't have a whole lot of special programming because we were gearing up for renovations, but Prime Time continues to be one of our most popular special programs that we do. It's a literacy program that's really geared towards low-income, low literacy families, and we do have a really good turnout. We had about 35 families register. So when we have a Prime Time event, it happens 6 Saturdays starting in October, so October through November. And those events will have 100 plus people at each of them. It's a really exciting program. And families learn how to read with their children. So we don't just do a story time where we're demonstrating reading, we actually encourage them to learn how to read to their child. Oh, there's a picture. Adult and general programs, we have about 526 people on average a month attend our adult programming. Our music programs are one of our most popular and more robust programs that we do. We have a lot of cooperative relationships with area music organizations like the Hiawatha Music Cooperative, the Marquette Area Blues Society, the Beaumier Heritage Center, and those groups allow us to bring in bigger names to perform at Peter White. We work with them. This last year, we had our very first Winter Roots Festival, and that was held in February of this year. And that was a cooperation between the Hiawatha Music Cooperative and also the Beaumier. And we were able to bring in several groups. We had instrument making workshops, folk dancing, which was really fun. So it was a really nice program that we were able to offer. And anytime we can cooperate with another group, it just makes it better for everyone. We're able to pool our resources, our staff, our funds, and really come up with a better program at the end of the day. Most of our music programming is funded by the Carol Paul Trust, which is a private trust that the library has. Excuse me, I'm fighting a cold. And that trust was designated for music events and services at the library. This is a scale showing programming attendance. Like I said before, this isn't a full year of 18-19 statistics. It's short about 2 months. So I feel like when we get to the end of this fiscal year, we'll be pretty even with programming, which I think is just fantastic because we were under renovation for pretty much the majority of this fiscal year. So to be able to keep our programming that high, I feel like is a pretty good testament to both our library staff and the patience of our patrons to come to programs when the library was in kind of a state of disarray. Meeting room usage, I'm told time and time again how many people appreciate the ability to come in and use our meeting rooms. The reservations that we saw from in the fiscal year 17-18 was 1,869 reservations. And I feel like that sells us a little bit short because we're not tracking the walk-in use of our rooms. So our policy has always been if there's a room open and you come into the library and you need a room to meet in, you can meet in that room. And we're not capturing that statistic. We're looking at a couple ways that we might be able to do that in this upcoming year. Because I don't know, but I'm theorizing that we're missing out on quite a few room uses. So I won't run through the township specific statistics because they're in your flyer, and this is a little bit small up on the big screen like this. But in your flyer, you've got the same information. It's showing the number of card holders, the percent of the population by township who have cards, the circulation for those folks, and the average circulation per card holder. The township Dropbox statistics, again, it's also in your handout, but I do want to point out that the Marquette Township Book drop was not, we weren't recording statistics for that from May until October of 2018. And the reason for that was because we were at the Westwood Mall. So we had staff at the mall, and so we weren't sending staff directly to pick up the book drop and bring it back to library for check-in, which is how we record these statistics. So rather than have a inflated statistic by how many items came out of the book drop because our whole youth services department was at the mall, I chose to leave them off, so we were under-reporting, so that we were only reporting the items that our staff was going to pick up and bring back to the library for check-in. So 2019 will have a better picture of what the book drop is doing at the mall. I like to just include pictures that are of interest. We have a program every year called the Holiday Walk, and we set up 75 Christmas trees in the library, and area groups come in and decorate those trees. It's a really popular program. My daughter's Girl Scout group decorates a tree every year. We've got lots of social groups, but also classrooms, but also just people who love the program. So they come in and they decorate trees, and this year we had some living trees also on display at the library. These are some of our partners that we have with our programming. Like I said before, we would not be able to do nearly the amount of programming without these partnerships. So we're very grateful to those folks who are willing to work with us. Library spaces. So we've been under renovation, and I broke up the renovation into 3 sections: preserving the past, updating the present, and preparing for the future. So preserving the past, you probably recall that the renovation started because we had a facade failure. Pieces of our facade were getting ready to fall off the building. So fortunately, we were able to get a bond for capital improvements and repair. And the pictures that I'm showing are the one on the left is the folks as they were taking pieces off the building, repairing what was behind them, and placing them all back on. And the picture to the right is the result. We are very pleased that we did not have to do anything to the foundation of the building. There was a lot of fear that once we got into this, we would find that there had been additional settlement in the foundation, and that we were really going to be tackling a huge project. But fortunately, we did not have to get into the foundation at all, which was really great, and we had extra money. So we thought, wonderful. The front steps look terrible. We're going to fix them. So we'll patch them. And they came in and they dug out all the grout between the steps and realized that all of the structure that was holding the steps, or should be holding the steps, was made of sandstone and over time had eroded and was no longer holding up the steps. They were holding themselves up. Not a situation that you want long term. So fortunately, we had the funds to be able to fix that. They actually had to tear all of the block off and rebuild all of the risers under the steps of the building. What I think is amazing is those steps, the set of steps that runs right up to the building are from the original building, so they're from the 1900s. If you look at the lower steps in that same view, they are in much worse shape, and they were replaced about 10 years ago. So the quality of limestone that was used on Peter White and with the original construction is really impressive stuff. So updating the present, there were a lot of items that we needed to fix and or figure out what we were going to do with them and or preserve. And so we spent a lot of time figuring out how to do that. The picture to the left is showing how we are displaying and circulating our art prints. We have a lovely art print collection that folks can come in and check out pieces of art to take home and hang up. And though it was a very unknown collection because a lot of times the art prints were along the floor and getting vacuumed up against, and people, were having to bend over and look through the art prints on the floor. So we were able to get a cabinet to display the art prints, which I'm quite pleased with. The boat desk was donated for the children's room during the 2000 expansion project, and not a super great desk for staff to work at, but we wanted to keep the boat. It was donated by the Rotary clubs in town, and we love the boat. We just had to find something to do with the boat. So we converted it into a play area, so now it's functioning as a boat in the mind of our children, and they love it. This is the top floor of the library. We have all these bump out windows that face Lake Superior and downtown, and they had a countertops put on them. And the countertops over time were falling off of the walls. Folks were having to go under the tables to plug in their devices, and as I'm sure you understand, devices and device charging and wireless access and plugging in for wired internet access is a lot of what we do. So that was a real inconvenience for staff and patrons alike. So one of the things that we wanted to do during the renovation was take the countertops off and put tables and chairs that could be more easily moved to get to those outlets, but then also for future space reorganization and things like that. The atrium windows on the parking lot side of the library were great for natural light, but they functioned a lot like a greenhouse. And so the lower rooms where those atrium windows are at times were unbelievably hot and quite unuseful. When you have little children running around, 90 degrees is pretty hot when you're inside. So we were able to put a flat roof on, actually heat and cool those spaces so they can be used in a more functional way. The picture to the left is showing the atrium windows after they had started kind of taking some of the structure apart. And then the picture to the right is our new youth programming room. We call it the Great Room. It's down in youth services and it's under those windows. These are some of the other updates. The HVAC, we had a new chiller installed on the roof of the library. Helped a lot with the energy use at Peter White. We also replaced all of the lighting, updated it to LED. With those changes, we've been able to reduce our energy use by about $10,000 a year, which is pretty outstanding. We updated our water fountains, and I like to point out this little bit of stairs because it's one of those things, you know, I'm sure you have these things in your house where it just drives you nuts and you think, why did they do it this way? This was a little gap, and if you put your foot down just right, your foot would go all the way down. You'd miss one step and you'd land on the step below that. And I just was waiting for somebody to do that and trip and fall down the stairs. So this was pretty high on my list, as silly as it seems. And I'm really glad they came up with a solution because it was a very big danger in my mind. So planning for the future, as we looked at what we wanted to do to make sure that Peter White was set for the future, energy efficiency was one of the items, but also taking advantage of the things that make Peter White such a beloved building in our community. And one of those things is the view. We're told all the time how people love to come up to the second floor and look out at Lake Superior and look out downtown. You can see the ski hill from those windows as well. And so we wanted to open up that view as much as we could. A lot of shelving was in the way of some of these more remarkable views. So we flipped the shelving to the other side so you can no longer have a great view of our parking lot, which I think is a fair trade. And instead you can look out at Lake Superior. And people take pictures from those windows almost every day. It's a lovely view. So we're glad to have been able to figure out a way to open all that up to the public. Conveniences were something that we were really looking at. The left picture is a picture of the book drop we installed in the entry to the library. We had a lot of feedback from parents who didn't like that they had to go all the way up to the top floor to then go down to the lower floor, or the main floor to the lower floor, to be able to drop off their materials. So we put a book drop in the entry so folks could do that before they came into the building. The picture to the right is our vending area. The library used to have a cafe on the lower floor of the library, but unless we could have installed a commercial kitchen, it was never really going to work for a vendor. And so we decided to go for simplicity and put in vending machines instead, hopefully taking care of an immediate food need for our patrons while not investing in something like a commercial kitchen, which seems kind of out of scope for a library. Again, convenience and meeting patron needs. This is a photo of our self-check machines on the lower floor. Another parent feedback item that we had a lot of probably complaint more than anything else, that patrons were ready to leave, they had their books in hand and had to go up to the main floor to check out. And when you've got little ones running around, that can be a really big headache. So we put in self-check machines on the lower floor so people can keep their children contained and check out before they leave, and not have to drag their kids to another floor of the library. We added a local research room on the top floor. This used to be our computer lab. We had a lot of interest in doing this and really had a difficult time finding a spot for it. But the computer lab is great because it's got its own climate control, which is important when you're looking at archival information. So we're really excited. We found a lot of information we didn't know we had, kind of squirreled away in cubby holes here and there. And when you have to move everything to put new carpet down, you find all kinds of little treasures. So this room is open 2 days a week right now, and we see that expanding in the future. It's getting a lot of traction, and people are really excited about having access to these materials. We added study rooms on the top floor, so this is another item that people can come in and check out with their card. There's 3 rooms. They fit comfortably. You could get about 6 people in each room. One of the rooms a little larger. You could probably fit about 10. And those are really nice spaces. Most of the time what we see are 1 or 2 people using them. People come in and work, or they come in and study, and these are really great drop-in resources for folks. The other thing we wanted to do is make sure our meeting rooms were updated. We've installed technology in most of our rooms, not all of them. And we wanted to make sure that access to the rooms was very clear. So on the lower floor of the library, we opened up, when you come down the stairs, we opened it up so you can see each of the different areas downstairs. One of them is the community room, a very popular room in our library, and a room that hosts a lot of larger events. So we wanted enough space that people could hang outside of the room before it started, and also have a place to interact with their friends and whoever was at the event after the event ended. We have 2 galleries that we manage in the library. The lower level reception gallery is the new one. And as I mentioned, when you come down the stairs, that's where that gallery is located. And then the Huron Mountain Club gallery on the main floor of the library. And then also on the lower floor, the Arts and Culture Center, City of Marquette Department, does lease from the library that space. We are currently in negotiations with their upcoming lease renewal, and they have 1 gallery that they manage and 2 studios. This is another happy accident that happened during renovation. We had to move our friend's bookstore from the top floor to the main floor as we were working on top floor carpeting. And what we found is that everyone loved it on the main floor. And we have a spot under the main floor stairs that's kind of weird, somewhat useless space. Because the stairs, you have to be careful of where people walk or they knock their head into the stairs. So we ended up making this the Friends bookstore, and we moved the shelving so that it was safe for the stair height. And it's really, really going well. The Friends have a great group of volunteers who are helping to make sure that the bookstore is stocked, and they're making about $500 a week in book sales from the store. This is a view of the top floor of the library. As I mentioned before, we just really tried to open things up and give people some space while they're at the library. And I would be remiss to not mention that one of the things that people love most about the library is our staff. So we also tried to make sure that we were making changes that didn't make our staff's life harder. And we did make some changes that I think produced a lot of efficiency and staff satisfaction. So I think it was a win-win for patrons and staff alike. Financial stability. This is a conversation that I think we all are having every day. How do we make sure that we are financially stable going forward? So we will be on the ballot in 2020 in all of our townships. Generally, we have 4-year renewals with our townships. Marquette Township is the exception to that. And I would again like to say if you would be interested in going with a 4-year renewal, that would be wonderful. That'd put Marquette Township on the same cycle as our other townships, but that's up for you all to decide. And this is just a little history of the ballot initiatives over the last couple of years. We were on the ballot in Chocolate, Sands, and the city of Marquette in 2018 for Headley overrides, and all of those were approved. And I'm sure you all know what the Headley override is and how that affects the millage rollback, so I won't go into that for you, but I do think it's interesting that as we have, well, let me get to the next one. As we've started to see the revenue come in, the gap between Chocolate and Marquette Township has narrowed significantly. Chocolate Township, from the Headley override, but then also growth in the township, the revenue coming in from Chocolate Township increased 44%. From the previous fiscal year. Sands Township was about 24%, and Scandia and West Branch were straight, that's just growth in the township, and also with Marquette Township. You'll see a decrease in the city of Marquette revenue, and that's due to loss of We Energies revenue, and then a few other tax tribunals in the city. So again, planning for the future, we have continued to work with our union to try and limit the liability with our employees, and we just finished, we TA'd a new union contract on Monday. That will be going to the membership on next Monday for approval and to our library board on Tuesday for approval. The energy efficiency, we keep looking at other ways that we can improve our energy efficiency. Our fundraising growth continues to grow, and as does the Library Endowment Fund. The picture up there is the winner from this year's Spelling Bee. She's one of our Storytime moms, and she almost won last year, so she was pretty excited to be the victor this year. Continued community support and a focus on really making sure that all of the services we provide and all the programming we provide is unique to the library and not duplicating services with other entities. Thank you for your continued support, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Anything for Pete?
Yes, is there a charge for the room? I've got my glasses here. It's 1,869 people use the room. Is there a charge for that?
Depends on the room. So we charge a setup fee for the community room, Shiras room, and heritage room, regardless of if it's a nonprofit or profit status, because we physically set those rooms up. The other rooms, we don't charge a setup fee. If it's a nonprofit use, they can come in and use the room once a month without a fee. If it's a business use, the fee is $25 an hour.
You mentioned that you saved over $10,000 in, lighting and different other changes. Then, have you ever thought about going solar? With the position of the library there, right up on top there.
Yeah, we really looked at it hard during renovations, and we decided to focus on the upgrades first, and then assess and see what kind of solar might be able to we could add on later. But yes, we have looked at it.
All right, good.
Yeah.
And thank you for your enthusiasm.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anything else for Andrea?
Yeah, how often do the adult general programs meet, and do you have a schedule that is available?
We do. So the newsletter puts out I'm sorry, I'm getting a little feedback here. It puts out a weekly schedule. We also print up monthly schedules that are available in the library. And really how often they meet depends on what's going on. Sometimes we'll have 2 or 3 programs a week, and sometimes one. Around the holidays, less. But it really depends. Last night we had a gentleman come in who kayaked from Grand Marais, Minnesota to Grand Marais, Michigan, and talking about his travel, and he had brought a kayak in with him. It was a great program. So we have a real variety. Some of it is, like I mentioned before, the music, but we do have a lot of presentations too. We have a doctor presentation that I think is monthly, and a different doctor from the hospital will come over and talk on a certain topic. So the whole schedule is available on our website, but we do have some in print in the library as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Thanks.
Well done.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Very informative.
Just push the button on the bottom.
Okay, next up is our fire department. It's leading off the staff reports. Chief, you can give us a report. You can talk about your boots and helmets. You can talk about the service agreement.
much.
We're gonna roll it all in.
In front of you. I don't want to just reiterate it, but I will say some trainings are always the first topic that I give you every month on it. It's been very beneficial, as I did last night. The training we do with our neighbors. Okay. The training that we do with our neighbors has been very beneficial, which we've been doing quite a bit this past summer with Marquette City, Chocolate, and Marquette County 131. The highlight, I guess, of last month would probably been the press conference that we held with Michigan State Police, Marquette City Police, and the Marquette County Sheriff, the distracted driving that we held. We did send 8 EMTs will be going to the UP EMS conference this month. And Rob and Mike were at the Fire Inspectors Conference last week, getting their continuing education credits. Does anybody have any questions on my report from last month?
Just that you've been awfully busy.
Yeah, we've been busy. Yes, we have been. Yep.
4 or 5 calls back to back on the weekends.
Yeah.
Saturday was
Yeah.
busy.
Yes, Saturday was real busy. Yep.
City's asking for help occasionally.
Yeah,
Today
every once in a
did.
while. Yep.
That was great.
Yeah. Oh, and we have a very good relationship with this, with all of our neighbors. We do, and it's been working out real well.
Reciprocity. Dan?
You talk about the joint training. Has that come into play recently on any particular call?
Well, last night, actually, as you're aware.
I don't know if the rest of the board is aware of the type of training that we've done with them and how beneficial it is when the call does come down.
It is, and I'm sure some of you are aware, the Dead River Falls area is quite popular, Stony Mills, and we've had quite a few, not too many, but quite a few, the falls out there. People, and they jump, rock cliff diving or whatever, and they'll miss the pond, and then it's all rock. I mean, we've had some pretty serious accidents out there. So then there's a lot of rope rescue. We've got to get these people up, and we've been training a lot with Marquette County 131. Even the city has had us train with them a little bit with out at the upper harbor, on the ore dock, seeing how they do their high-angle rescue. But that training with Marquette County 131 has been very beneficial, and Chocolate Fire is always out there to give us a hand also. And it's coming quite handy.
Randy, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, the issues at Stony Mills and at Dead River Falls is not, the injuries are pretty severe that come from that, but there's also a very difficult extrication, getting them out of there. It's compounded, basically. It's not right away. You run to the aid that you can on site, but then you have to move them out of that area, which is basically overland for quite a distance, and it's a pretty remote area. So we're talking about putting together some kind of a public service announcement, basically advising tourists, visitors to the area and new students in the area at the university to enjoy the view and enjoy the trek out there, but don't jump off. I mean, it's not like Black Rocks. Black Rocks, you jump off Black Rocks, there's not anything to hit but the lake. You go out to Dead River Falls and Stony Mills, and if you're not very, very precise in what you're doing, you end up in the rocks, and it's a very significant injury. We've had some very seriously injured young folks that we've hauled out of there that are never going to recover, basically, from those injuries.
How about putting some signs up? I know nobody reads
Private property.
signs ever, but even then.
Yeah, I mean, we can't put signs up on, on somebody else's property. It's, it's owned by BLP, it's owned by Longyear, and it's, the power company basically is how they get back there following the power lines. So it's, we can announce it, but in terms of signing it, that's not something that we can't go put signs on somebody else's property.
Yeah, but we could ask if they could. maybe.
Oh, yeah. Well, then they have to police it,
Suppose, yeah.
So if you sign it, then you have to control it.
Dan?
Not only the kids jumping off the rocks, we've also had several incidents out there where they've been walking along the tops and the erosion, and they slip and fall, and it's a 30 or 40-foot drop. And, I mean, you're talking 2 broken legs, broken arms, and, I mean, these kids are just.
Pelvis, backs.
Pelvis, femurs, hips. They're a mess. When we have to take them out of there, they really are a mess.
Yeah, a couple of, they fly out right away. They don't even stop. They fly them out right
Yep.
away.
It's tragic to see this happen to
is.
these young people, but I don't know if there's no answer that I think I can think of.
Other than awareness. I mean, that's all you can do is make people aware, and that's what we're gonna try to do, is to enhance that awareness and the threat, the danger of it.
One of the last years came back and visited us. He was in intensive care in Ann Arbor for 6 months, or intense, what are they,
Intensive
induced
care.
coma, excuse me. Yeah, for like 3 or 4 months, and he did come back and visit us with a few of the people that were at that scene. It was sort of nice, and brought us cupcakes. That was pretty nice.
Nice to see that they did survive.
It was nice to see, yes. He'll never live in the cold weather again, but yes. Yeah.
Do we ever have anybody that's capable of taking some pictures during one of these incidents, and we could put a little slide presentation together and maybe have some of these northern students in one of their programs or something?
It's
I'll
hard.
leave that up to.
I mean, you got the
that end of the
confidentiality
You got
issue in there and
privacy
stuff, I understand.
Confidentiality issues, medical issues, HIPAA issues, you got all kinds of things, but, it may be possible to coordinate with the university or somebody like that to do a demonstration using, not a human, but,
I'm not volunteering.
a mannequin or whatever to show the kinds of injuries just from falling that distance onto the surface that you're falling on. It's not smooth. It's not like this tabletop. It's jagged rock, natural rock. It's got sharp edges. It's not uneven, and it's unforgiving. There's no
Don't
cushion.
Northern have some kind of program to explain to the
They do.
young students coming in?
They do, but it's like any other program you put on. Some folks just aren't going to go to it, or they're
It'll
going to
never
take it as a
happen.
challenge.
It'll
And,
never happen to them.
Yeah, never happened to them, or a challenge. As a challenge, yeah, I can do that, no big deal. I've been to Mexico and jumped off the cliffs, no big deal. What they don't realize is that we, 15 years ago now, had a major flood, and it changed the entire configuration of the bottom of those pools and ponds. And there are things in there that you can get tangled in and not come back up. So it's not just the fall, it's after you get in the water, you may not get out. So it's a dangerous area. It is what it is.
Chief Shanahan, on your power line downs, you got 5 of them. What was the reason for that? Now, it seems like a simple question, but a stupid question, but.
Oh, an emergency.
Is that old trees along the road coming down, or is that?
Oh, that could have, I believe, without seeing it in front, which one you're talking about, I'm guessing it was the storm we had. We had quite a few power lines down. And we also had one out here on the highway that the contractor had pulled down, and they closed 41 for a little while.
And we've had a couple that were the result of vehicles.
That storm.
And vehicles hitting up.
But there's so many right on the township in George Park, the trees are getting so rotten, like the one down, end of Erie Street, and that, it's just dead. It's just laying
Yeah.
over there down on Woodridge, it's coming down, Ontario, there's just leaning over, waiting for it. And I know one time I called up the Light and Power and just told them, I said, you got a tree on your, right as you drop down Ontario. I said, you got a tree laying on your power line. Oh, they didn't know that, but I was asking, why don't they cut it? And we talked to the county, and they said, no, basically, the road commission is, we'll wait till they fall, and then we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Hello, but
Well,
it's
yeah.
crazy that they don't come and
Right.
try to trim back some of that stuff and get rid of it.
Yeah.
But
Any other questions for the chief on that?
And Dan's right, those are 2-hour extrications to get the people out. They take time.
Every
There's a lot
time.
of setup, safety precautions, because there's a lot of danger to everybody involved. trying to
2
get these
hours,
people
multiple
out.
agencies, and
Right, 4
20
agencies
25
last
to
night.
30 personnel just to
Yeah.
take one
A
person
lot
out.
of manpower.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of manpower.
And the risk that they're putting all of you in.
all of our, right.
You can
And the
slip
boots
and
are so
fall.
critical to this, the good footing.
Go ahead. Good
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just-
Absolutely.
segue.
Yes, yes.
Show us your
I
boots,
was just saying,
Dan.
Well, you know
good footing is paramount.
Yeah, you know, that is one of the considerations, is that when they're responding to rescues like that, they're geared. I mean, they're fully geared up, ready to get in, so it's a difficult operation, you know, in very, very tough terrain. But kind of leading into that, you know, we do have two other items on the agenda that have been moved up, and we talk about those for just a bit. One was the replacement of the helmets and the boots, and we did bring down at the end, down by the mural down there on the end, is one of the helmets and a pair of boots, just so you can kind of take a look at what we currently have. If I'm not mistaken, you can correct me, Chief, if I am, but I think we are one of, if not the only department that still has the rubber boots in the county. They've all shifted over to the lighter leather composite ones, which is what we're proposing to do with the funds that have come from the KBIC. And also with the helmets, our helmets are the older style helmets that are quite heavy, and we're proposing to replace some of those as well. So I'll just let Chief Shanahan speak to that. But if you want to take a look at them, they're down just on the other side of
Why don't you hold it up, Dan?
Trustee
Has everybody
Everson.
held those to see how heavy they are? And that's just two of the items. You've
This is
got
just something, something we've
bib
been,
overalls and the jackets
the
and
bucket,
air
the-
tanks and
yeah,
they're
it's
just,
expensive, everything's expensive, unfortunately, but something we've needed,
I don't need to hold them.
they're, what is that, 10 pounds? 8
no,
pounds?
three and a half.
Really?
4.
3.5 to 4, but still, you know, on top of your head after several
Now,
hours.
if it doesn't fit right, and that's 18-year-old helmet, so the fit, it's not balanced properly.
It's huge.
I would say, they fit right 18 years ago.
Yeah, maybe we were happy with them, yes, yes, we were.
There's two boots there, Pete.
Dig deeper.
No,
But the chief,
I couldn't resist.
yeah,
Yeah.
the chief had prior conversation with the tribe with regard to equipment needs, and that's what generated that $27,000 check that came. The check came without any restrictions on it, but it was as a result of that discussion. So the chief and I basically sat down, and we've looked at the boots and the helmets for several budget cycles, and have always had something more pressing to replace. But we're getting to the point where we really need to address some of that equipment. So,
We'll be in pretty good shape once, you
Yep.
know, we'll be in pretty
Will
good
that
shape.
cover, that amount of money cover what you need? to
Oh,
have
we'll
done?
have, yes.
For
very-
everybody?
Yes, yep.
and they'll have a
What we're
little
asking-
bit left over
There'll be
towards
some
other
left
equipment
over.
as well.
Slowly. I don't want to, yes.
But I guess
Gloves maybe someday.
as an example, and it was just opportune, today the Mining Journal has a photograph of the Pine Ridge. They were doing a story on the residents of Pine Ridge going back in, and they had a photograph of the evacuation, basically, with the firefighters out at the main lobby, and they had one of our firefighters with the city firefighters, and it's a good representation. If you look at it, it's a good representation of looking at the boots that our firefighter is wearing versus the boots that the city firefighters are wearing, which are the newer style fireproof leather boots. And the helmet is the same thing. You know, so it's a pretty good representation. If you have a chance, you might want to take a look at it, because there's a striking difference in terms of the size. I guess, you know, this,
Weight.
well, the size in
Weight,
particular.
size,
The rubber boots are a lot. It's a technical term, but clunkier.
They're obsolete.
They're
They're
obsolete.
totally obsolete. They're heavy.
They're old style. Yeah.
You get tired, quick, yeah, it's not comfortable.
So
They last a long time.
So that, you know, that's a recommendation from the chief, and I support that recommendation to the board, that we authorize that the board authorize the expenditure of the funds to replace the helmets and the boots to get us moving forward on those things. So that's one item is on your agenda.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye?
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
I guess just the
Hang on,
other
you might as
thing.
well wait,
the other-
talk about the
Yeah,
service.
the other thing that I would mention, if any board members are interested in actually seeing or inquisitive about seeing just what it takes to gear up for a firefighter to respond either to a fire, to a car accident, or whatever out on the corridor, we did it at the community day. We had one set, one of our firefighters was relatively small in stature and has left us to go elsewhere, but we have the turnout gear and the boots and helmet that was his. And we had it there for the kids to be able to try on, just to see what it's like to be a firefighter. And a couple of them did. But I think that might be interesting for any board members if you wanted to go over and just take a look, because it's about, by the time you're fully geared up, it's about 90 to 100 pounds of equipment that they're wearing when they respond, particularly if they have to have the air pack. If they don't have the air pack, it's a little bit less, but it's still heavy. By the time you get the boots, the helmet, the protective pants, coat, and all of that, it's a. I know my granddaughter tried, and she had an awful time just moving, and she was pretty well weighted down, but it was kind of comical. But it's interesting. People don't realize what it's like, to be in all that gear and have to be in it in all temperatures.
You have to perform.
Yeah. So,
We had that at our open house last year too, and we had quite a few
Did.
people that were trying it on, and were really surprised at the extent of weight that we do have to carry, just before we even do anything. So,
well, just a simple thing. I mean, the first time I ever did it, I was surprised just putting the helmet on for 10 minutes or so. It's tough on the neck if you're not used to it, so. The other item that we had on for the board to consider is a proposed agreement with the city of Marquette for their mechanics who are certified for Pierce fire apparatus to perform maintenance functions for us, so we would not be contracting with firms from out of the area like Red Power Diesel or Pomasol or any of those that have to come from a distance away to work on our equipment. We get charged for all that travel and for the time that they're here, and they have to come and see what it is and then order parts. We're projecting that we could experience a 10 to 20% reduction in cost just by removing the travel time and the downtime for accommodations if they have to be overnight, to allow the city to perform that maintenance for us. So that's why this is on the agenda. We started this conversation when the city constructed their new maintenance facility, and we did the first tour and saw that they had 2 of their trucks in the garage at the time being worked on. They've got the specific lifts specific to fire apparatus to be able to lift pretty much anything, to be able to get under it, which we can't do unless we're on a creeper on our back. And it was interesting because we did take we took one of our fire apparatus over there just to give it a trial run, basically, to see how it would work. And we found, once it was up in the air, we found several things that we couldn't see from ground level underneath. So it's I think it's a good thing for us from the standpoint of downtime, from the standpoint of cost efficiencies, and potential sizable savings on our maintenance and repair, plus the backup, basically. If we have our piece of equipment in their garage, we have backup from them as well at the same time. So, and they're looking to expand their capabilities as well. I think for both us and for the city, it would be a good joint venture to potentially get into. So that's a recommendation. I don't know if the chief has any additional comments that he wanted to make, but
just they did offer too. If we have we feel as though we have an issue, we're nervous about the brakes on 78 or something, bring it by. That we'll send a mechanic over. That's a nice comfort feeling for us, knowing instead of us guessing and talking to somebody on a phone saying, we think check this, it's just a nice comfort, comfort feeling knowing that we have a Pierce certified mechanic that will come over here in 10 minutes and take a look and say, hey, this is what you heard, park it, or you're fine.
Yeah, when we had our first discussion with the city, they came over here and inspected all of our equipment. They spent several hours.
Oh, yeah.
It just, going over everything, looked at all of our data sheets, and they're very comfortable with their capability to take care of our equipment. The Seagrave is not a Pierce, but it's not really any different from the standpoint of operations, and we do have the maintenance manuals for it. So they've looked at it. They're comfortable with it. They think it's a reasonable proposal. Attorney Zappa has reviewed it and has found no concerns that he has with it. But if the board is going to go forward, it is an agreement, so the board would have to support the agreement and then designate a signatory.
Are we looking at putting that in the form of a motion then to?
Are we on 10D now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're jumping around.
Yes.
If,
We added that.
I would definitely put that in the form of a motion and to have the city, their mechanics are top-notch. It's a win-win situation for us, especially in just the cost savings.
Yeah. The motion would be to accept the proposal and authorize somebody from the township to sign it.
So moved. Do you want to read it?
No,
Oh,
Go
not
ahead.
anymore.
John was trying to get my attention, but I was
It's
waiting
okay.
till Randy
Let it go.
finished. He jumped the gun on him.
sorry, John.
We need a second if we have a motion.
We have to identify who's going to sign it.
Correct. It's a contract. It's an agreement.
You're-
Yes, I think that would be the supervisor's responsibility then to sign that.
I'll second that motion.
If you want to
Have a
read it.
second. Okay.
Read it.
I don't have my glasses on, John.
I'll read it for you. This is Dan's motion. Move to concur with our manager and fire chief to approve entering the fire equipment repair agreement with the city of Marquette as proposed. And further, authorize the clerk and the supervisor to sign.
Yes,
Well done, John.
Supervisor.
I thought that's what he said.
what I said.
I heard.
We're going to try to get in the habit of putting the motions on here, but we had a rough week last week,
Okay.
so we'll do that in the future.
We still need a second, John.
Yes, Pete
I
seconded.
Oh, Pete did, okay.
Turn your hearing aid up.
All right, any other questions for anybody? All in
Hope
favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
John.
thanks, John. All right, Public Works, do you want to give a report while you're here, Kirk? Need my lights.
It's that time of year where there's
Turned your light on.
quite a bit of construction going on. The stuff that's impacting us is primarily the MDOT project, which is essentially replacing and relocating quite a bit of our water main and sanitary sewer main. Primarily, as a couple of things, they're extending to the north, the physical location of the road, so that's impacting a section. And then also the tunnel is probably the largest impact in terms of both water and sewer now have to go under the tunnel, which is not a huge deal with the water, but a little bit more complicated with the sewer. They originally were proposing to construct a lift station to pump it underneath, which, that'd be great if they were going to assume responsibility for the lift station for the next 100 years, but, so I said, no, it has to be gravity, which meant you still got to lower the main, but to maintain the proper grade, it has to be lowered quite a distance downstream. So, so that project is actually going pretty well. The contractor, who I've never worked with previously directly, but he's competent. He has, plenty of people and plenty of equipment to get the job done. And so he's very responsive. And of course, MDOT is, it's kind of a team effort. They're pretty adaptable as well. The main thing we're looking for is just to make sure that the end product is going to meet our requirements, because it's still our mains, and they're still going to remain our mains in the future. Kind of related to that, there's a stormwater detention basin at Best Buy, which is having to be relocated by Best Buy. And actually, Best Buy is only the tenant, so the owners of the property are actually, it's a large company from Phoenix, so they're actually the responsible party. The original detention basin was, that was before we had an ordinance, a local ordinance, was permitted by MDOT and the county to be installed in the right-of-way. And so now, obviously, it has to come out of the right-of-way, so it's going basically in their parking lot. And obviously, it also has to be closely coordinated with the MDOT project. So anyway, that actually got a kind of a late start. It was kind of a long permitting process, a lot of back and forth. They finally got permitting. They had a contractor. It's actually a local contractor doing the work, Moyle from Ishpeming, on behalf of the owners. And then they had a delay on the shipment of the main materials that they need for the project. So it's been going for about 2 weeks, and that's going pretty well. There's a third project nearby for the Fox Motors Subaru new facility, which is requiring on Brickyard Road, excuse me, what road is that? Northwoods Road, extensions of both the water and sewer mains. That's going, it's not going that well. Again, we're there to make sure that it's being installed correctly per our specifications. But unfortunately, they're not working for us, they're working for the owner. And the contractor, who's a local contractor, a lot of experience, but he just has good projects and he has a bad project. So the crew is kind of inexperienced, they're getting poor supervision. So it's happening and it is getting done, but it's just taking forever. Just requires lots of oversight, basically. But that is proceeding. I can't really give you a completion date, but hopefully it'll be this year yet. And then actually a fourth project that's kind of related to the highway project, and that is, I guess it's going on 2 years ago, Myers, the main store and the C-store had to extend mains to get their service. The C-store, their sanitary service, which is not available on the north side of the road at their location. So they elected to, and they got permits from us, from the state, and from MDOT to do this work. So there's one section that basically is bored, actually directly drilled underneath 41 from the C-store site to the south side. Actually, basically right in front of Best Buy. So part of our acceptance protocol is to do a number of tests, one being a visual inspection, which in this case has to be obviously a video. So it took them several months to actually get that part done. And then when they did, it was done, but then they couldn't locate, and I'm talking about the contractor actually did the work, they couldn't locate supposedly they couldn't locate the actual video. Then they finally did, so I viewed it, and it looked pretty bad. There were lots of issues with it. The main thing we're looking for in a case like that is, we require deflection testing, which is basically pulling a device through the pipe to make sure it's relatively round and straight. What else? An air test, to make sure it doesn't physically leak. But then there's the final thing is just a visual. So it could pass those tests and still be problematic. So, and this directional drilling, even of gravity pipe, is becoming more and more common. So it's fairly easy to directional drill pipe. And for water mains, it's not a huge issue because, okay, it's under pressure. So gravity pipe, there's no pressure. So the whole idea of a gravity pipe is you keep the sewage flowing, so their minimum grades required. So anyway, the upshot is there was a sizable dip in the pipe. So water, there's actually a full pipe for roughly 50 feet of the pipe. And then the connection on the south side is very sketchy as well. So, so actually they came up with a second video for the first time because the second one actually was after cleaning. So the pipe looked clean, but it still looked like some issues to me. I could see the dip, and since it's directional drill, it's that fusion pipe. Okay, so it's actually welded, fusion welded. So you could see the welds on the inside of the pipe. There were two different pipes coming together, and that basically with just a rubber, we call them, Franco is the brand name, coupling. So, the coupling's on the outside, so you got the outside, then you got the pipe, and it's not straight, it actually appears that one side is coming up to meet another pipe that's coming down of a different material. So that's an issue right there. So it looked clean, but I could still see the issues. So I said, well, and of course the contractor wanted to argue about it. He had excuses for everything that was happening. Well, it's not really an issue. I said, well, it's been so long, why don't you televise it again after a few months, which will have been a year, and if in fact it's clean, the sewage is flowing, I'll let it go. So that just happened like just this week, where I got this is actually the third video, and I could see everything pretty well, but there's still, it looks even worse actually than it did originally. So basically, and yesterday John started, so he looked at it yesterday as well to get his opinion, and he agreed with me as well. So something's going to have to be done, either completely redone. They could directional drill again, but that's going to be pretty. We may end up with the same product, because that's always going to be an issue, because you're drilling underground, and they've already relocated it once because they hit a boulder, so they had to move it, and you're trying to, drill from a specific point A, a specific point B. Sometimes they're off, and elevation is really critical too. Sometimes they're off of that. So not only does it dip down and then actually go up and then down again, it curves, laterally as well. So
what enforcement authority do we have on this?
Well, the enforcement authority is, we have to accept it because it's basically Myers is building it. And of course they're bonded and everything. And one of our requirements is we have these acceptance tests. So it has to pass all the tests. And furthermore, their insurance company will not sign off until I sign off. So that's an issue. So basically they would lose money. So our first attempt is we're going to get started on this tomorrow, is to suggest that they first of all attack the south side connection, which is only a few feet, and there's room to do it right now, and give it an opportunity, and if that works, then fine. That may also possibly alleviate somewhat the upstream dip, but that remains to be seen. And it's possible to do without interfering with the project right now if that's done like right away. If that doesn't work to our satisfaction, which would have to be proved with another video, then the only other option would be to do it again, completely do it again. But it would have to be bored and jack. So boring, you basically push casing through, and you lay regular pipe through that casing. They push it and the joints actually fit together, and they put like blocks on the bottom to kind of guide it, and then the thing is filled. The space is filled with flowable fill. So, and that was a standard for many years. We might be required And the only problem with that would be not our problem, but would be the contractor's problem and the owner's problem, which would be, that's much more costly. So, anyway, so that's the status of that. And then for individual stuff, we've, again, this time of year, suddenly people decide that they're finally getting around to doing things. And so we've had several recent sewer connections. We've had one on, and they're all kind of different situations. We had one on South Vandenboom, which was, that's from a fairly recent project. The people didn't connect because they were living there, their septic was fine, hadn't failed. But they just sold their home. And they were making payments on the loan that we extended. So they just paid it off. So the new owner is going to connect. So that'll be one. And then we have two in Trowbridge Park, one in one of our individual projects where we had those requirements of, okay, you don't have to connect, but if you do connect under these circumstances, this is what it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you that if you do it today. If you do it in the future, the cost might be different. So that occurred. We had one person who's staying in the home, but his septic failed, and he hasn't made any payments. So he paid everything off, but of course the fees have changed since, because he never even signed the agreement, which is clear on the initial mailing to everyone, so that everybody knew what was happening. But anyway, so he's connecting, and that's kind of pending. Their contractor, everything has to get scheduled with the contractor. And the second one was in the original Trowbridge project, where everyone was required to connect, except of course vacant lots. So in just recent years, somebody built a structure which started out as just a garage, but now they're turning it into a home. So they're connecting. That one's pending as well. So that's pretty much it. And of course, the big story is John coming on board. So it's only the second day, but he's getting a lot done. So it's basically my hope is to transition as seamlessly as possible. But of course, there's a lot of things that transition. So there's actually one more thing later on, which can that be moved up to now?
Yours?
Yes. And that is
Actually, we might as well.
We are co-owners, as you're aware, of the Marquette area wastewater treatment plant. So there's a board, and I've been the township rep for many years, and Randy has been the alternate. But those terms expire every 3 years, so basically our terms are expiring. So I'm recommending that John be appointed the township rep. He's already had experience as the Chocolate Township alternate as manager. So he's already familiar with the, how the board works. And then I be appointed the alternate so that I'm still available, for at least 4 more months or whatever it is. And then after 4 months, when I'm gone, then Randy can be appointed the alternate until he leaves. And then it could be possibly the new manager or whoever. And that's my recommendation, which does require board action to do that.
John?
I move to concur with the recommendation of our Superintendent of Public Works and appoint John Kangas to the Marquette Area Wastewater Treatment Authority Board and appoint our Superintendent of Public Works as an alternate.
Do we have a
I'll
second?
support.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
Okay. Thank you.
Lynn?
Any other questions?
Absolutely.
Kirk, how are we doing on our meters? Are we all completely changed over from the old to the new?
Oh, yes, we are, and we have been for some time, and it's, in some cases, We didn't change the actual meter. What we changed was the register, in the register part, which actually does the reading. So it's the modern register, which is compatible with our transmitter, which transmits the readings to remotely to somebody else's server, which we can access directly from billing. So.
Thank you.
Dave, did you have one?
Yeah, a couple of questions, and first one's on Fox Subaru.
Yeah.
Where they're doing that repair over there. Are you involved in the project oversight to the point of when they're gonna repair that road, if it's gonna get done before winter, or is that kinda up to them?
Well, it's not up to them, it's basically up to the county. Because they also had to get, not just from us to do the construction of the mains, they had to get county permit for work in the right-of-way, so they control that.
And I'm talking about replacing that asphalt where they dug
Right.
up when they come across the highway.
Yep.
So then you don't know if that's gonna get
It's gonna happen, I just can't tell you when. The county does have authority over that.
Is that something the contractor does, or is that something the county has to come out and do?
Oh, the contractor does it, for sure. Yeah, the county just gives a permit for them to do the work. No, they're certainly not gonna,
The county inspects the
Do it
work, though.
themselves.
The county signs off on it once it's done.
right.
Okay, now, two more questions. One's on the connection process, and I know you talked about the one where the home was recently sold and they had paid some money on the agreement to have it connected. Is that one of the conditions where they have to connect it when the house gets sold? Or is it totally,
Right, yeah.
is it totally based on
Right,
when the
there
old
there are 3 or
septic
4
failed?
conditions. One is, well, obviously, if it's a vacant lot, you gotta connect. Second one is, if you're in an existing home and your septic has not failed, you don't have to connect until it fails. And the third one would be if you sell the home to another person, then those are the 3 conditions.
Okay, and the last question I got is to do with the Myers. You're talking about the C-store, is that the gas station over there?
Yes, right.
It concerns me that they're putting together they're having that kind of problems with that connection, and it seems that we might have a tendency to give them a break so they can get the job done, as opposed to get the job done correctly.
Well, not really.
Like a little
I
dip
mean-
is okay, but the big dip's not any good?
Well, see, I was making these claims that, okay, what I'm seeing is, first of all, there's an impedance to flow. If you've got a dip, okay, the whole point is to keep the sewage flowing. Okay, well, if you got a dip, the sewage, which is mostly water, but it's got solids in it, the solids are gonna settle. And all that's gonna do is increase our costs in the future. We don't wanna be out there every week or even every month cleaning that main, okay? That's the thing.
Well, that's my comment, is
Right.
I would hope we hold them to the letter of the law on that and make them
Well,
fix
right.
it right.
But like
so
I
we
said,
don't-
that's
So we don't inherit a problem when it gets turned over.
right. But that was, and they were claiming, well, this is not going to be a problem. So everything you're talking about, so the dip, the interior seams that were protruding into the pipe, and that bad final few feet of the connection where there's a transition that's offset, basically. They said that's not going to be a problem. Well, I said, well, the only way to prove that is to, okay, let it go for a year, which it has been now, it's already been a year in October, and video it again. Well, they videoed it again, and it's not happening. So it's still the same problem that existed before. So they got to keep going until they do it over.
So I'm hoping regardless of what they gotta do, if they gotta dig it up and put it in from above the ground, they're gonna have to do something to make it right.
Right, that's what I'm saying, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and that was the point of my question. We have to ultimately accept as accurate and as correct that pipe. And if it's not, we're not going to accept it until they fix it correctly. And,
Right.
you know, one of the questions that right off the bat is, with all the construction that's going on, why did they bore it? Why didn't they open cut it and, you know, do it as part of the construction process? But bottom line is, we're not going to accept it if it's not correct. And they're going to have to fix it. That's their expense.
Well, and in defense of Meyer, there was kind of a holdup because they had hired engineers to do their design work. And that was pretty much completed. But this is several months before the MDOT project. So the MDOT project, they knew it was happening. And in fact, I attended pre-construction meetings for, I'm going to say, almost a year, okay, in the planning stages. And the problem was MDOT kept changing their design because they didn't start out with a final design. They just started out with a concept. But when you get right down to the details, okay, there are lots of conflicts, and they have to deal with everything. So, which meant that every time they changed their design, the Meyer engineers had to change their design. So that's basically what happened.
I just put that in the theory of cost of doing business, but how big of a
Well,
line
it
is
is,
that?
yeah.
How big of a line is that? How big of a line?
Oh, it's 8-inch.
8 inch?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Anything else for Kurt? Nice
Okay.
update.
Thank you.
Thank you. So assessing, we probably don't have anything. I checked with Dulcie yesterday, nothing really going on. They're making some changes, but until everything's finalized, she doesn't have a report for us. State's trying to fix what they think is broken, and she says it's not broken, and why are they getting involved and making it more involved? So, to be continued on that one. Attorney report.
Well, it's been a busy month since the last one, but I'll try to keep it brief. The Cayman and Trail Network license agreement did get forwarded within a couple days after your last meeting with the revisions that we had talked about. Haven't heard anything back yet in the meantime. The pending litigation over the vacation rental in Huron Woods is ongoing. We filed our answer in a timely manner. The co-defendant, who is the homeowner, has been defaulted. She has not filed an answer. And there's a formal hearing will be conducted on that on, I believe it's October 16th in Circuit Court. And we will want to appear at that to urge, depending on what occurs at that hearing, that we be dismissed from it because the issue becomes moot, essentially. We reviewed, looked over the fire truck service agreement that you just acted on. We have a very serious zoning violation of the buffer yard on the Fox Subaru property that we met just today to discuss, and that will be, in terms of what the townships and planning commission's options are, that will be addressed one way or the other at the planning commission's meeting next week. And I'm sure you're all familiar with that, but the buffer zone that was supposed to be kept along Northwoods Road was essentially clear-cut, and that then compromised the remaining trees that were in the county road right-of-way. So those have, if you drive by there, have now been all cut down for the most part as well. So the conflict arises in that you've got a development district zone adjacent to a rural residential zone that requires in and of itself a buffer zone. That was supposed to originally be mostly a natural zone. That's no longer feasible, so there are all kinds of options and alternatives in terms of whether that looks like a berm with a masonry wall or a berm with a lot of trees. The problem is also that a portion of that is recessed or is in a hole, so to speak. So even if you plant a bunch of trees, it's going to be a good long while before they're up past grade almost. Again, Planning Commission will be addressing that. They're looking for, I've been requested to provide some input before that meeting as well. We had an interesting noise ordinance interpretational issue that's ongoing between a couple of neighbors in the Trowbridge area. I just issued an opinion on that. That was initiated first off by one of our two deputies that we paid a patrol. And hopefully we can come up with a solution on that that makes sense for everybody. We've got a couple of other ongoing zoning issues that we're just monitoring and providing some input and advice on as they come up. And finally, partially in the assessing realm, as I reported, either at the last report or the one before that, we have a new tax tribunal matter that's been filed, but we have some possibility of a collaboration with a neighboring township who has an appeal by the same taxpayer, and we may be able to get some economies of scale from on an appraisal. We're exploring those possibilities at this point. And that pretty much covers it, unless anyone has any questions on any of the specific items or anything that I might have overlooked since the last report.
Anything for the attorney? Pardon me. Thanks, that was very good. Randy and I met with our 2 county representatives for about 45 minutes. Last week was all we could, 3 of us had something to do. Actually, we went to the check presentation at Super One. They donated $1,000 to the township for, some of that back money for community days, which was pretty awesome. A couple TV channels there and newspaper, so we didn't want to hold that up. It just ended up falling about the same time as the county report. But they focus mostly on the airport, the runway expansion, whether we're going to get satellites or not. That's still kind of all up in the air, if you'll pardon the pun. They want to extend the runway, I was going to say driveway, runway, and get bigger planes in there. So it was just a very brief report, so really nothing to share. We shared more with them than they did with us. Mostly the project, the road project. So really not too much to advise you there. Community linkage, we took off. We're going to talk about that at the bottom. Committee updates. We did cover wastewater treatment facility, and then we could look to the left for planning, rec, and roads. What's happening?
Just a real quick comment before you do that about the planned expansion of the runway. When they brought that airport and they converted it, that runway was some 13,000 feet long and some 300 feet wide, and they spent several hundreds of thousands of dollars to make it smaller.
Yep.
And now we're going to spend several hundreds of thousands of dollars to make it bigger again, so.
Yep.
That's interesting.
The way they explain that is that they actually didn't physically reduce the size of the runway. They X'd it off basically, but they did not maintain that portion that was X'd off. So now they may have to maintain
Actually,
it.
what they did, not to belabor the issue, but they went out there and cut trenches in
Yeah.
it so they could move the clearance lights, runway edge lights into the inside.
Yeah.
Instead of the outside, so
Yeah.
it has to be all fixed again. But
Yeah.
taxpayer dollars at work.
Yep.
Anyway.
They were talking about continuing the MAP program, the military airport designation, so they can get some grant funds for improving some of the hangars for the airlines. But specific to the township, not really much. We basically informed them of what was going on here with the construction project and the traffic shift that was coming up, and I don't know that's just being talked about at the county level, but.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The planning commission for the 11th was canceled. The next planning commission meeting's on the 25th. We've got 2 public hearings scheduled. One is for a land use, which is at the old carpet specialist building. And the other one is a public hearing on the special use permit for the rear access drive at Fox Subaru, which ties in the buffer yard that our attorney referred to. And the rec committee was just tonight. We'll get that at the next meeting. The road committee meeting was pretty basic. We're still waiting on the 2020 road rehab maintenance inspection until after we get our additional staff person on board. We did have a complaint about one gentleman that was passed on to the manager for resolution. It was about a crack in the driveway from the first year we did the road rehab. And other than that, that was it from the road committee, so there wasn't a whole lot going on.
And Randy was saying that we were able to save a little bit of money on this year's maintenance on the
Yeah,
road?
just a couple $1,000s, not a lot. It's,
Yeah.
that's all done now. It's, they finished up pretty much on schedule. They ran over a little bit on the cleaning up the chip seal on, I think it was Woodridge,
Yeah, they need.
It was Woodridge,
Woodridge is
yep.
done today.
but that was it, they're done.
Which one was the one that had the divots in it? Was that wasn't Woodridge, right? That had, but we were pushing them to fix because their equipment wrecked it? Was that last year?
Well, that
Or
was,
did they fix it this year?
Moran, wasn't it?
No,
Moran
yeah, it was, Moran, Ontario, it was the County Road Commission took care of that.
Okay, so that's done. And then the corner, that's not Vandenboom,
Fair,
Fair, yes.
Fair and Vandenboom.
That's done.
That's
the
done,
county also did
redone.
that.
They completed that this year.
Is that why we saved some money? Because they
No,
did it?
oh no, that wasn't part
This
of our
was,
roads project.
okay.
That was damaged, that was County Road Commission paid for that. And they also paid for the, they may have back-billed the Smith paving because it was Smith paving that damaged the roadway at the corner of Ontario and Moran. But the Road Commission did the repair.
So now we'll only get the grass cut once next year, I bet, in the corridor. They'll have said, took all of my money, I'm sure.
I got one question for Dave. Did they repair Orchard Street when they went in and, with their big dozer?
No, they didn't do anything with
They
that.
didn't, okay.
No. They offloaded some equipment and left some big track marks in the road.
They being the road commission?
Yeah.
Gotta love them.
You let that slide, eh?
No, we haven't let it slide, but, you know, you can only ask. It's their roads.
The ones we're fixing.
Yeah, there you go.
Can we stay on them for next year to do something with that?
Well, assess manager, can we stay on them?
Sure.
He says I won't be here.
No, I'll be here. Yeah, and that's, yeah, I had presumed that they had repaired that. I hadn't gone and looked at it, but if they haven't, we'll put that on our list, because we've
Yeah,
got some.
best
we've
of
got
my
some-
knowledge, they haven't done anything with it.
Yeah, we have some clear vision areas, and I'm not real thrilled with the repair that they did at Moran in Ontario. I don't think that's gonna hold up.
Were they trying to rush because of the weather, maybe, thinking it was gonna?
No, they did it last year, and it's just, I thought that they did the same thing that they did with the Fair and Vandenboom intersection, did a temporary repair and was gonna come back and fix it. Well, they did come back and fix Fair and Vandenboom, but they haven't done anything more with the Ontario, which carries more traffic than Fair and Vandenboom. So we'll have to get those two items back to them again then.
Since you're talking to them, will you bring up the spring on Moran Street?
That's a continuous.
I know, I'd just
Yeah,
like to see somewhere,
we're
where do
coming
we
to winter
stand, where
again.
they stand, they said, we said this, you said that.
Yeah,
You
we're
know,
coming to
because
winter again, and, you
You're
know,
gonna lose the whole road again.
well, there comes a point where we may just do something ourselves.
Yeah, okay.
John, did you have somebody down here? Dan?
Dave, in regards to that offloading that equipment, was that done by, I thought it was my understanding that it was done by a local contractor and not the road commission.
No, I thought it was a road commission.
No, it was a local contractor that didn't put the mats down and chewed it all up. It's, every time they come to do that repair each year, they use the mats now, but, and I'm not 100% sure because I think the first year after the road project was done, the county may have come in there to dredge that. I can't remember, but every year since
That's where the
then.
damage was caused when that county came in.
No.
Now, we'll raise it with the county, and they can bird dog it if they need to. They'll know if they did it or not.
Yeah, it was either them or one of our local contractors that have done it every other year since then. And other than that particular year, now, every year since, they put mats on the road, offload the equipment, and when they reload the equipment back onto the lowboys, they always use the mats. But for what reason, we don't know where their heads were. They didn't do it that one year.
Would that be on the drain commissioner's contract? I mean,
Yeah, actually, it would be,
okay, so the drain commissioner would know who did it.
yeah.
Okay.
It was the first year after the new road was done. So he would have a contract and he'd be able to tell which one of them did it.
It would have been 2016 then. Okay. I'll check with him.
That's it? Good?
That's it from my end.
Okay. The draft committee reports tonight includes the Heritage Trail draft meeting minutes of August 28th. And then we need to schedule some work sessions, if you would be so kind, to get your little calendars out and figure out how quickly, how fast, and when, so we can get our budget going. What does next week look like? How fast do you want to do this? Do you want to do one a week? We've got a bye this month. We've got 5 weeks.
How many are we thinking we need?
Well, if we did usually we take the small ones and do it one night, and then we do 7 or 8 on Public Works. We're gonna try to do like one.
Can we
Maybe 2.
bring that down a little, just a little, John?
Yeah.
7 or 8 is
I
not.
think we only need about 3 to 4 sessions.
What if we do a couple in the next couple
We
weeks?
could
Or
take
do you-
fire and a couple other ones on the same night, because the fires is so,
Yeah,
it's probably about $8,000 difference on that
General.
one from last year.
and the clerks and the treasurer.
Yeah,
and get
the
'em done.
the one major item that is still out there that we won't have a good handle on until the middle of October is health insurance. So
Yeah.
I plugged in a 10% increase just to
It won't
be,
be till the end of October till they do their study, you know.
yep.
Yeah, at least the mid. So what are you thinking? Next week, start with one?
What day one? And what time?
Wednesday, maybe?
What time?
25th? How does Wednesday, the 25th look for you guys? Does that work?
Okay,
What's your
here.
schedule, John?
Time?
Or John?
What time?
What time?
What time?
1 to 3?
Hang on.
I'm off that day.
Okay.
1 to 3?
How's that sound? 1 to 3, Wednesday, the 25th?
1 o'clock doesn't work for me. I have physical therapy from 1 to 2.
Okay. Is that every day?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the next 2 weeks.
Thursday, I have a 2 o'clock, but I could do like 11 or something. What's your work schedule, Randy?
What day?
Thursday, the 26th?
6th.
Yeah, 2 o'clock's fine.
Would that work? No, I have a meeting at 2. It'd have to be earlier, like 11.
What day we?
I'm off that day.
Thursday, the 26th.
Would that work, like 11
No,
o'clock?
I
No?
can't.
Okay. You want to go into the next week? We could even,
What about Tuesday, the week that we're just in?
24th.
Tuesdays. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I've got stuff written there, but that's
How about the
okay.
24th?
Does that work?
Yeah.
Like 1 to
Okay.
3?
Works for me.
1 to 3?
That's okay?
1 to
1
3?
to 3, Tuesday, the 24th? You want to make it a general?
Well, do you want
Put
general or
anything
do you want to do
specific.
a specific? Just so I can have the department head available.
Well, if we do the small ones,
You do fire and
Fire and-
fire in general, I guess that'd be okay.
we have everything but health insurance, right? So we could tackle general, we can always go
Yeah,
back to it.
general.
General and fire?
I get fire knocked off first and then do general?
Yes.
Okay. First week of October? Wednesday, Thursday's good for me.
What's Randy's schedule?
Anything, yeah, board meeting on the
We have a
first.
meeting on the 1st.
Census or something?
Yeah, she said the first week of October. But that's kind of up to us.
Give me any indication of how long of a meeting?
45 minutes.
45 minutes, okay. Should we do that as part of the board meeting? So it can be televised?
Well, actually, she didn't want to come to the full board,
Okay.
so
Who's that?
the
Census Bureau.
census
The
lady
day they're talking.
was talking, she wants to meet with the
Second, third, or fourth of
officers.
October.
So we can do that anytime. I can just check with you guys. Okay, so Wednesday, the 2nd, Randy, you've got PT, 1 to 2?
Actually, I might be in Lansing on the 2nd.
Okay.
How about the first?
First, we have a meeting.
The day's
At
shot
1 o'clock.
anyways. This week.
Want to do 1 to 3 on the 1st?
I'm scheduled to be in Lansing on the 2nd and 3rd, coming back on the 4th of October.
So you won't leave till later on Monday, or Tuesday?
Monday
Well,
morning.
after the meeting, yeah.
Well,
Monday.
Monday morning, is the meeting starts at 1:30. So I would drive down that morning.
Wednesday, yeah.
On Wednesday.
So Tuesday,
1 to 3?
you want to just leave that open to see how far we get on the first
We
one?
tackle Public Works, is that too quick for
Well, you want
it's 2
to,
weeks?
you want to see if, but you've only got one session before that. You may not get through fire and general fund in 2 hours. You want to
Just make it general,
leave it open at this point?
Okay,
general.
And if we get time, we can start, another one.
yeah, we just say general.
Well, you'll be able to know, on the first session, if you get through it, then we can designate who you want to do for
Right.
the second one.
Because we need to let staff know ahead of
Yeah.
time what to be
Mm.
prepared for. You want to do one more and plan it for Public Works and like the next week and then see where we are?
What was the next Tuesday?
DDA is 5:30 on the 8th.
What's it, 5:30 on the 8th?
DDA is what I have,
It's at 6 o'clock. I
Oh,
got
yeah, it would be.
DDA at 6.
5:30.
5:30.
Thursday, the 10th?
Say it again.
Thursday, the 10th? How does that look?
That's good.
How's yours, Randy?
Anything before, not anything before 1,
1 to 3 on Thursday, the 10th?
Public Works.
Okay, we'll kind of plan on Public Works and we'll leave it 1 to 3.
So that gives you from October 11th to December 31st to beat up on Public Works.
Not too bad.
Welcome
one-
aboard, John.
Lynn, was that 1 to 3 also?
Yes. He can take it,
Okay, gonna plan Public Works then for the 10th?
yes.
Yep,
Okay.
tentatively, yeah, I mean, we can. So we've got September 24th, Tuesday, from 1 to 3, fire and general. And then we've got 1 to 3, just kind of open for October 1st, Tuesday night, afternoon. And then Thursday, October 10th, for Public Works, 1 to 3.
Good.
At least we got to start.
We had talked about having a special work session too for Randy's replacement, to get started with that. Should we schedule something for that?
I sent you out the questions to consider, 5 of them I think it was, and I put it on the October 1st agenda to have the discussion. If you want to have a special work session, that's fine with me. We can do it then.
I would like to.
We do, in light of the potential discussion, I have not gotten back in touch with the 2 firms that have proposed, given us proposals basically for search services, because if you decide not to go in that direction, I want to have them start doing their work, so. We do have 2, from 2 Class A search firms.
I think my opinion would be to hold off for
Okay.
right now on them. I mean, I'm one opinion, but I'd like to have a work session before we go forward with that.
Yeah, I mean, if you still have some questions that you want to answer, definitely you need to get those answered before we start talking with a search firm, basically, to get them going on it.
You want to tie it into the budget session on the 1st? Just so we don't have to do another day? Either, can you stay past 3, Andy?
Well, general should be pretty much wrapped up. I think you can incorporate it into both. It'll be fine.
I guess
I
if
think
you,
that would
if you
work.
wanted to do that between now and that first meeting, if board members have any specific question, if you could get those to me right away, we can get them answered for you before we have that session, so, cut down on the time to chase, basically, make better use of your time.
Yeah, that's fine. We can incorporate it into that second,
On the 1st.
the first work, that
Just to,
work
you know,
session that.
That's
if there are
2
any
weeks.
questions, just shoot me a quick email on the question, and I'll just respond back out to all the board members, so you all have the answers to those questions, if there are questions ahead of time that we could get you more information on.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you fix the date? to
Do we-
have a work session?
Yeah, the first.
Do we have to do a separate one for the posting? We can just do
No,
it in that.
you can add it.
We're gonna do a
Right.
general, it's gonna be general and,
First budget session.
on October 1st from 1 to 3.
Well, then I can leave it on the agenda so that if we choose to make some kind of a motion, we can do it that night.
That night, yeah.
That work? Okay.
So I'll move to schedule budget work sessions on Tuesday, the 24th of September, 1 to 3. That'll be Fire Department and General Fund. Second work session will be Tuesday, October 1st, from 1 to 3. That'll be General Fund wrap-up / manager replacement discussion. And the third one will be October 10th, Thursday, from 1 to 3, and that will be Public Works.
Support.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good deal.
I'll post that tomorrow or Thursday. Probably Thursday.
Okay. Consider request for speed study traffic control warrant on Commerce Drive between Werner and Wright Streets for the Marquette County Road Commission and Michigan State Police. Randy, take it away. Had a request.
Yeah, where this request came from basically was, we have the new development going on here and adjacent to our building across the street and a couple of other buildings, and there's been some concern raised that there are not speed limit signs posted on this section of Commerce Drive through here. The only speed limit sign there is at the very beginning of Commerce Drive, just off of US 41, posted as 35 miles an hour. Consultation with the Road Commission indicates basically that the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit extends from US 41 to Werner, not beyond Werner on Commerce, because there's never been a traffic control order issued for Commerce Drive. So there is no established speed limit currently. Commerce Drive is constructed to a 55-mile-an-hour standard for the curve and things such as that. Where this came from primarily was right across the street, the new building that's being built almost directly across the street from us. Their main access driveway comes out on the curve, and they have very limited sight distance there. They can't see cars coming around. So they have initiated the request that we have a speed study done, or at least a traffic control order issued for this section of Commerce Drive to establish a speed limit. So that's what's before you tonight. The Road Commission will not do it on their own. The local jurisdiction needs to request that a speed study or a traffic control order be established.
And do we specify which of those, or?
No, it would be an either or.
Okay.
Would be the request of the, and it would be basically up to the Road Commission which way they went. Now, if you do a speed study, they put out the tubes and basically they set the speed limit based upon what the actual speed is that's being traveled by the cars on the road. If you do a traffic control order, that is the initial establishment of a speed limit for that segment of road. It is not based on a speed study. Is my understanding, it's not based on a speed study.
Speed study's dangerous at one time because they'll take 85% of it and then you might add
85% of what the traffic is actually comfortable driving at.
If they do a study on the rate of speed, if they monitor the speed with which four-wheelers are driving on there, it'll be higher than what we would want vehicles driving. So I don't think we should be looking at what is naturally the speed limit.
Yeah.
We should
I-
have a
I would-
restricted speed set.
Yeah, I would suggest that we ask the Road Commission to establish by traffic control order what the speed should be on this segment of road predicated upon the development, the number of driveways and things such as that.
I agree.
Randy?
I'll move to direct staff to send the request to the Marquette County Road Commission and the State Police for a traffic control warrant on Commerce Drive
Aye.
between Warner and Wright Street.
Support.
Not a speed study, traffic control warrant.
Any more questions or comments? Pete?
Lynn, that particular, in the last couple of years, has been so busy because people are walking, on their lunch hour, and then we've got the residential people from out down here on the corner. You got Martran, you got the cinema, the Thompson Theater there. There's some close calls, even coming out of Martran at times. You have to watch. So
Yeah,
I
there's
think
been
it's so
lots
important
of
that we slow that down a little bit.
bikes and people running, with the buggies behind them, or they're pushing them.
And people on the phone, I've seen a couple that.
Well, and as we continue to get development in this area, there's going to be more and more people.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Traffic control warrant. Okay, we've already talked about C and D. Our new C is consider fiscal year 2020 QPAD membership dues. We do kind of support this organization. Back in the day, before we had lots of staff, QPAD was utilized, and they do provide, in my opinion, quite a service for the whole county. So the request is to continue our membership at $781 from October to September of 2020. They give us all the services that are provided. I think we even kind of helped them on one project that they were working on with somebody else last year or the year before. Pete?
When's the last time we used their services? I mean, we should be, now we're shorthanded in the planning. We should be using some of these, I don't know how many hours that we get.
Yeah, we do it. We use them for GIS services and
All right,
things such
okay.
as that. So we have used them in the past. We don't use them a lot, but we have used them, and we'll probably be using them a little more with this transition that we have with our staff planner.
Okay, good.
Randy?
I move to accept the invoice from QPAD for $781.
Support.
Any more questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 10D, consider 2019 tax rates request to county for township authorizing the clerk and supervisor to sign the document.
Yeah, there really isn't a lot for you to consider here. This is a document that you see every year. This is basically setting the stage, the parameters for what we intend to levy for 2020. You will see it again in your budget process, and when you adopt your 2020 budget, you also have to have a tax hearing, and that's what this is.
John?
Truth in taxation.
I move to authorize the clerk and supervisor to sign authorizing and approving the county tax rates request.
Support.
Motion and support. Do we need a roll call on this?
You can do it just to be safe. Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries.
What if the motion didn't carry? We couldn't do that, really. We have to do it. Never mind. Let's not go there. Let's not worry about what might be. Okay, any public comment? We kind of still have public, if you want to share anything. You're in the seats.
I'm
only here to
learn at this point.
Cool.
Excuse me.
Any announcements anybody wants to share? Okay, managers report.
You do have a printed report that I have supplied to you. We have hunting season starting again. It's actually started as of last Sunday. Small game season opened up, so we're in that mode. So people need to be cognizant of that when they're out and about in the field. Make yourself visible, and don't be upset if you encounter folks in the woods with guns, because they will be there. Traffic configuration changes, they took place. I did go drive through. It's well marked. I think it's well laid out. The only hinge point on US 41 is the eastbound traffic is being restricted to one lane, and that will cause some traffic congestion with eastbound traffic. I also came on 492 from Nagani to Marquette, and there was no traffic on that. So it's a good alternate to be available. Don't need to go into a whole lot of that. It's well publicized. It's on TV6 and pretty well marked. I did want to mention earlier in the meeting there was mention of Super One basically donating back to the township. It was a little over $1,000 that they gave back to us, and that was the proceeds from their providing the food at the community day last August 3rd. And they were there all day, basically, providing food and beverages and snacks for the participants in Community Day. If you'll remember, they also did the same thing for our Christmas event last year. You know, they turned back revenues to us. Basically, they just cover their costs and then donate the rest back to the township to be applied to Lions Field. Lois maintains a separate account for those revenues that come back in to be used for Lions Field. And you know, it's a great partnership. They do a terrific job, and they're very supportive of the community. And you know, and I just want to give another shout out and a thank you to Super One for their participation. They indicated that they want to continue to be participating with us for our events that we do, and I think it's a great thing. So, thank you to Super One. Anything else?
Super One, is there any way we can put it on our website, thanking them? Some kind of a blast out there?
Yeah, we have Todd Nordyke, who is the chair of the Community Events Committee, put together a media release with a picture that is going to be going out to the Mining Journal and to the other entities. TV6 was there and did broadcast it on the TV6 news, both the 11 o'clock and the morning news. And it's up on the radio station's website as well, but we'll link it with ours. Once we get that, once we get the media release out, we'll link it on our main page.
We had talked something about putting information on the census on our monthly water bills.
Mhm.
Those blurb. Are we getting ready to do something like that?
That will follow as soon as you have this meeting with the lady from the Census Bureau. They're just getting all of that in place, and we want to make sure we have the correct information. So once she gets here and meets with the board and establishes what it is that they want from us, then we can do that.
I did tell her that we had some discussion about it, and I said the board was not overly enthusiastic about, you know, tromping the streets and doing stuff, and that the county kind of jumped in and took over on how they were going to handle it. And she said, well, that's fine, but you have your residents to answer to, so you need to be involved with this. So she'll tell us how. It's still kind of voluntary, but kind of not, that we need to do something, whether it's open houses or.
Yeah, well, it's important, you know, it's important that we get a full count, you know, and find out just exactly really how much our population is. I think we all recognize there's probably more than 3,900 that came out of the last census. But I think it's, you know, it's important that that everybody who is here in the township gets counted, because that impacts federal aid and impacts a number of things that that can benefit services like fire and law enforcement, and, you know, our ability for grants, a variety of things. 5,000 population is a kind of a trigger point for a lot of things, 5,000 or more.
Dave?
Couple of questions from residents wondering, everybody notices we're collecting money for an ice rink roof, and they want to know how much we have and where can they find that. So.
Okay, finance, yeah, anything that comes in earmarked for that is
Is
being
it-
kept in a separate account.
Is it something they'd have to call in and find out, or is it something they can find someplace?
Well, yeah, we can get a report put together, yeah, it's in financial reports, yeah.
You had another one too? Did you say two?
Hmm.
Anything else for the manager? Okay. Motions, clerk.
First motion was to approve the consent agenda. That was a roll call vote. The second motion was to approve the regular agenda with a few changes, and that was approved. The third motion was to approve the replacement of the fire rescue helmets and boots. The fourth motion was to approve the agreement with the city of Marquette for servicing the vehicles in the fire department. The fifth motion was to appoint John Kangas to the wastewater treatment facility advisory board and Kirk Page as the alternate. Sixth motion was to schedule the budget work sessions, and we did that. I'll post those Thursday. Seventh motion was to request from the county and state police for a traffic control warrant on Commerce Drive between Warner and Wright Streets. And the eighth motion was to approve the QPAD membership dues, and the ninth motion was to approve the 2019 tax rate request to the county.
Excellent. So for right now, future agenda items, I had moved the MTA request for any recommendations for their 2020 legislative policy request. I put that on October 1st. And census, that's all I have so far. Well, then I was going to add, I did type up a memo with the questions for the consideration of the new manager. So that'll be part of that work session. So we don't have to add anything else, but we can leave it on the agenda so we can make a motion if we want to. Well, that's all I have so far for next time. Any board member comment? Randy?
It'll be brief. I did email the board members, I believe, a few days ago with a link to a presentation that I didn't attend, but it was on a computer about moving forward, if the board so desires, and to modernizing our agenda with video tied to the agenda and documents on the, you'd have to watch the presentation, but it's only about a half hour, and if anyone has any further questions, I could schedule another presentation. It's all computer-based, so we can just meet as a group and have a small work session on that. And if you want to try to implement that, if you desire, it'd be about a 90-day implementation period. So that's all I have.
Anything else from anybody?
Yeah, just a question, I guess, on that speed study or that warrant control measure. What's the difference between, is the difference you can do a warrant, traffic control warrant because there was never one done originally?
My understanding is when a road is constructed, when a road is constructed, there are several ways you can establish the speed limit. If it's a residential road, it's but de facto 25. If it's so many driveways within so many feet, it's a different class of road. But this road had never had a speed limit set on it or any kind of restriction set on it when it was constructed, because there was no development out here. So it was left as I guess as a 55 mile an hour. That's the design standard, was 55 miles an hour. So this would be the first look at establishing the appropriate speed limit for the section of road based on the number of driveways, type of traffic, and things such as that are on there.
So the difference between that and the speed study that we did on 492, could we have done a traffic control warrant on 492?
It already had one. That one, they had an established speed limit on it, and we were looking to change it.
You can't redo it.
Yeah, we were looking to change it.
I'm trying to find a way to get around the foolishness of a speed study.
I know, it realistically, a speed study these days really doesn't do anything, because, you know, we have a 30 mile an hour posted speed limit through the construction zone, and if you go 30 miles an hour, you better have good insurance on the rear end of your car.
Well, I guess the reason I bring it up is if it was possible to do a traffic control warrant and take into consideration the driveways along 492 that weren't there when they did it originally.
Yeah,
I mean, is it,
I think the
Good
difference,
argument.
can you get around their foolish speed study, or?
I don't know that. My understanding is that once there is an established speed limit by traffic control order, the only way you change it is by a speed study to see if it's a valid speed limit.
Well, then it still seems very silly.
It is, and it's even sillier that townships were taken out of the decision process. They didn't like that because it didn't always go the way the state police and the road commission wanted it. Because the township had the ability to stonewall it. It has to be a unanimous vote.
So if everybody travels 65, they'll set the speed limit at 65?
85% of 65.
85% of 60, oh, everybody does 100 then.
Yeah.
That's ludicrous.
Didn't they change the speed limit on the curves?
Well, see, that's part of establishing a traffic control orders. They have to take all of those things into consideration, the radius of the curves, the bank of the road, the number of driveways, the type of access, whether it's residential or commercial or, whatever.
You might have a good argument because it's
Well, I
they
think,
did that.
I think someday when we run out of things to do, we ought to challenge that, because that is just ridiculous from the start.
Mark that on your list.
I know MTA for a long time, MTA pushed and pushed and pushed to get the township supervisor included in the speed study process. And it was there for, 4 years, maybe? And then it was taken out by legislation because it didn't work the way they wanted it to work.
Well, and all I'm suggesting, and 492 is the best example I got, is if, when the traffic control warrant was done initially, they
Bishop Woods
count
wasn't there.
driveways
Yeah.
and all that, and, I mean, it's changed significantly from when that was done. It would seem, common sense would suggest that you could do it again and reestablish
But
proper speed.
here's the likely fallacy in the argument. Bishop Woods has 2 driveways on 492, and they're more than 300 feet apart. So that's only going to be counted as 2 driveways, even though there's 35 homes that use that driveway, or those driveways. But I don't know the answer to your question, but that's a question I'm certainly willing to ask the road commission in terms of establishing 492s. I can tell you that the sheriff's department has written tickets up to 100 miles an hour on 492.
Oh, Christ.
Coming down the straightaway, eastbound from, the last curve that comes past Bishop Woods, that straightaway. That was one of the
Maybe they
favorite
should put that
places.
sign up again, Dead Man's Curve.
Well, it was from the curve, the long straightaway, because what it used to be, one of our former deputies that was a patrol officer for us would sit at this end of that straightaway with the radar and would routinely write ticket after ticket after ticket of people speeding in there up to 100 miles an hour on that straightaway.
That's my complaint for the night.
Okay.
I'll check. I will ask that question. Is it possible to issue a new traffic control order for that section of 492?
Thanks.
Anything else to share? Just one more
I
motion.
move
Make a
to,
motion, we adjourn.
I'll support.
Okay, 8:39, we are adjourned.
Yahoo!